for me. I'm gonna be your, you gon' be my Julie.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all today? Today is supposed to be weather challenging day, but so far it's been good, so we appreciate God for that. We are just about to begin and want to welcome you all, dear esteemed delegates, distinguished dignitaries, ambassadors, representatives, guests, students, and colleagues. It is with great excitement that we welcome you to the 25th Southeast Modern African Union Conference. My name is Dr. Nneka Nora Oswake. I'm a professor of English and the Provost Special Assistant on Internationalization and Global Engagement. I'm truly excited that we are able to come together despite the weather. Thank you all so much. You come from various zones and areas of Georgia to join us here. Some of you are coming here for the first time, and it takes a lot of courage to, venture into somewhere you've not been before. But beginning yesterday, I'm sure that a lot of you are surprised by the great treasure that you're seeing here at Albany, Georgia. I welcome you all. The Southeast Model African Union Conference started 25 years ago in 1997 at the Middle Georgia College, now Middle Georgia State University. It's a renowned conference. The goal and foresight is educating students about the affairs of African countries, now 55 of them, through transformative experiential learning. And you know that in the 21st century, this is the preferred way of learning, where students actually experience learning through performance, through engagement, through practice. And that is what this model is using. Perhaps we are all aware that our primary criterion for assessing excellence and quality education in this 21st century is global learning through inclusion of international and intercultural education in the curriculum. The former U.S. Secretary of Education in the United States, Ann Duncan, affirms in the 21st century, a quality education is an international education, period. If it's not, it's not. In the SEMAU Conference, students from various institutions of higher education in the U.S. University System of Georgia and beyond participate and the goal is to stimulate the activities of heads of state of the African Union, representing 55 countries. In Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the headquarters of the African Union. At the end of the 3-day conference, they come up with authentic resolutions that are passed on for consideration by the African heads of states at the African Union annual deliberation. Our purpose this morning is to welcome you all as we commence the conference. Appreciate all our distinguished guests, distinguished students, and acknowledge the grand efforts of students and faculty advisors and which delegates an outstanding academic deliberation session. We want to extend our warm welcome and our sincere appreciation to our distinguished ambassador and keynote speaker, Her Excellency Dr. Hilda Sekumafuze, for making time from her busy schedule in Washington, D.C. to be here with us. It is an extraordinary privilege for students and the Albany community to have the opportunity to meet and talk with you after listening to your keynote address in Realizing the Africa We Want, the African Union Agenda 2063, which is the theme of this year's 25th SEMAU Conference. We are hopeful that the audience, and the students in particular, will use the question and answer session as an opportunity to get further clarity on some of the issues that might be debated in the various conference sessions of these committees. We also acknowledge other dignitaries. We appreciate the presence, the honorable guest from Cameroon, Dr. Akere Muna. We are delighted to have you with us today and to be giving a special guest presentation. Your presence assures an extraordinary quality to this conference and the entire deliberation, knowing the role you've played as the Vice President of Transparency International and Anti-Corruption, as well as the International Legal Consultant for UNESCO and the like. There is no doubt that you stand for justice and are a true mediator in many critical African and global corruption issues up for discussion at this conference. We truly appreciate you accepting our invitation, coming all the way from Cameroon, and being here with us. We use this opportunity to say a huge thank you to our Albany City Mayor. We saw his kind gesture yesterday, Mayor Bodoro, for our outstanding magnanimity in hosting the ambassadorial reception at the River Aquarium yesterday. You've made a great mark, and the entire ASU community is pleased with your kindness. We are grateful to our distinguished ASU president, Dr. Marion Ross Frederick, right here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Who prioritizes? She prioritizes campus internationalization and global learning. One of her initial projects in 2018, some of you may not know, was signing up ASU for the American Council on Education Internationalization Laboratory, LAB, an institutional global learning community. Participation in that lab changed the institution's global perspective, resulting in its engagements in projects and initiatives such as this Global Learning Conference. Strongly supporting the presidents, we have the provost, Dr. Angela Peters. If you can rise to be acknowledged. Without Dr. Peters and the president, we wouldn't be here. She single-handedly initiated a strategy for us to raise funds to have this gathering. So we truly appreciate her for that. Thank you for your commitment to globalization and internationalization. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the vice presidents. We appreciate especially the vice president for the Division of Student Affairs, Dr. Lindsay, And he is here with us. Dr. Lindsay, if you may rise to be appreciated. And we also appreciate the 3 deans who jointly raised funds to make sure that this gathering takes place. Dr. Dean Melanie Hash, who's here represented by the Associate Dean, Professor Charles Williams, and then the Dean of the College of Business, Education, and Professional Studies, Dr. Ngwafo, and then we have the Dean of Darton College of Health Professions, Dr. Brinson, and then the chairs of our various departments. Please, if you're here, can you please stand to be acknowledged? Okay. I know that a lot of them were there last night. And then the directors, if you're here, can we also appreciate you? Thank you. Okay. It is a collaborative effort. Everybody sat together and we held meetings together to have today, to realize what we have today. Without them, the collaborative conference with the University System African Council would not have been possible. So we appreciate all of you. We say a big thank you to University System African Council team members and the chair, Dr. Charles Obar. Can you please stand and be acknowledged? And the past directors, they are also here, the past SEMAU directors. We've had SEMAU for 25 years, and each year we have directors and co-directors from different universities. Please, if you're here, can you please stand? Some of you are going to be receiving awards. If you're here, can you please stand? These people are the powerhouse with the University System of Georgia African Council. Without them, we would not have continuity and we would not have had the opportunity to host this. So we truly appreciate all of you. To the SEMAU Subcommittee of ASU Internationalization Task Force, we say a big thank you. Please, if you're in the house, can you please stand and be acknowledged? Those in the SEMAU Committee, Internationalization Task Force, can you please stand? I know all of you are not here. People are running around. I can see you. Please stand and be acknowledged. They have been working consistently. We held bi-weekly meetings virtually since spring, February, coordinating and organizing. Thank you all so much. There are numerous other individuals, you can see them outside, who are volunteering. We truly, truly appreciate all of you. I can't mention everybody's name. We're going to be here forever. We have our core Marcom team, Imani and the group. We have the technology team. We have, at ASU, excellence is the standard. So usually we all work together. I truly appreciate the House, and I appreciate every one of you, and wish the delegates and esteemed faculty advisors a great conference deliberation. Thank you all so much. I will now invite our distinguished president, Dr. Marion Frederick, to give her opening remark. Dr. Frederick.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 25th Southeast Model African Union Conference. Albany State University is so honored to be able to host this conference this year. And I think we're going to host it again in 2024. Is that what I heard? So we are honored and humbled to have the opportunity to contribute to what's going on today. As we operate in this global environment, having the opportunity to allow our students to be a part of what's going to simulate the African Union, it helps you to understand what's going on in other parts of the world. We are so excited that y'all are going to be able to do that today with a lot of people guiding us through this. And a conference of this magnitude takes a lot of people, a whole lot of people. I want to first thank you all for being here and being engaged in this environment today. I want to also just stop and say to Dr. Oswake and Dr. Gibson, I want to give you a personal thank you for envisioning this for Albany State University. They have worked so hard and with the team on putting all this together. And those of you who have worked with Dr. Oswake know that you normally can't give her a no anyway. And so it is awesome that she brings these events to me and to all of us to support them. Please give them a round of applause for all the work that they've done. And thank you to the meticulous planning and organization with the planning committee. I know you all stood earlier, but just one more time, if you can stand so that we can acknowledge you and I can see you from this way. The committee that's put the committee to put the conference together, please stand. Thank you all so much. And they also are the ones who are coaching and guiding our students who will be participating this year as well. And with that, I want to ask our students from Albany State, and then I'll ask others, but our Albany State table of students, please stand so we can acknowledge you for all the hard work you're doing. Thank you all for being great students and for representing Albany State so well. And to our wonderful city representatives from the city of Albany, Mayor Dura, and I think he's not here this morning, but our commissioner is here this morning. Our commissioners, thank you for supporting not only this event, but you all have supported Albany State through so many various events. And I want to tell you thank you. Because of you, we're able to get our students graduated from Albany State, ready to work and earn money the minute they walk across the stage. So thank you for supporting us to the city of Albany. And welcome to the African Union Ambassador to the United States, Dr. Hilda, I won't butcher this, Suka Mafuzo, did I say it right? Mafuze, thank you. I practiced that all night, still got it wrong. Mafuzi, chairman of the Ambassador to the United States, and then chairman of the International Anti-Corruption Conference Council, the Cameroonian lawyer, president of Transparency International, Ambassador of Angola, Mr. Akri, I said that too, Muhana. Is that right? Almost. Say it right. Tell me to say it right. Muna. Akari Muna. Stand, please, so we can acknowledge both of you as well. And I know the ambassador's not here, but thank you. The next 3 days, I guarantee you, will be very informative. And this year's theme of realizing the Africa we want, which sets the tone for a future full of technological and cultural advances, some of which we don't even know about yet. So thank you to our students for being able to get to the table and come up with creative and innovative ideas for real-world problems. And so I want you all students to embody that and take that with you as you go to this next phase, because that skill set is what's going to help you in your next career. And as I'm talking about students, we have a bunch of students that are in the room that are not ASU students. Can I get you all to stand as well? In the back of the room back there? Thank you. Students, please realize that what you're doing today is what I hope you're going to be able to do for other students that are in our University System of Georgia schools. I am honored that our regents still support this program, and some of our programs that they've started may not necessarily be as advanced as this one. And so I thank you all for continuing this and making sure that it does not go away. This is so important to our culture. It's so important to us knowing what's going on in the global world. So I want to thank them for that as well. So thank you for attending, thank you for participating, and thank you for being at ASU, where excellence is a standard. Thank you, and have an awesome conference.
Thank you so much, our president. We are truly, truly appreciative of all the things that you do for us at ASU. The next speaker, who is also going to bring welcome as well as do the official opening of this conference, is the City Commissioner, Howard. He is representing our Honorable City Mayor, Do Boho, who is unavoidably absent this morning. So we invite Commissioner Howard to do the welcome and opening.
Good morning. I'm going to read the proclamation from the City of Albany, Georgia. Of course, the Mayor of Albany, Georgia, unfortunately because of some health issue, he was unable to attend, but he worked so diligent last month to make sure that we had this conference intact, and he was going to participate because of an illness that he came down this week. So he sent it next best thing. And guess what? I am a graduate of this institution. I'm going to read the proclamation and give it to Madam President. And I told her at the end I will make some addendums and some footnotes, but believe me, I will keep it brief and simple. Madam President, will you come up? Okay. Whereas, with the context of the border region, new strategic plan, and other dynamic factors that are transforming undergraduate education in the United States and around the world, global knowledge, skills, and attitude that have become a core expectation of students' learning. And whereas Albany State College has contributed much to our community with the graduate playing a vital role in Dougherty County in the history and growth. Whereas Albany State University International Education Week celebrates being observed from November 15 to 18, 2022. Whereas Albany State University Education Week brings more awareness about global knowledge, skills among our students, faculty, staff, and community. Whereas Albany State University works close with the border region and the University System of Georgia in bringing all of the change required to meet the current challenge and preparing students and the global learning and success in the 21st century. Now, therefore, I, Bordur, the Mayor of the City of Albany, Georgia, do hereby claim November 9th through 12th, 2022 as the 25th Southeastern Module Union Conference in the City of Albany, Georgia. And Albany State University committed to the higher education and international education, students in African countries. I therefore encourage students, administration, faculty, and staff of Albany State University and University System of Georgia to participate in university challenge contribution and endeavor and provide and promote teaching and learning about African countries as part of the university system, in which way, therefore, I do here set this in my hand and cause this seal to be presented to the Mayor of Albany, Georgia, and be affixed to Madam President of Albany State University. since I can let my hair down a little, that's what I have on my head, to tell the students and to distinguished faculties and to all members of this university. As we opened this conference last night at the Bridge House on Front Street, I challenge the students here and other students and faculty, when you leave here to go to the West Campus, cross the Flint River, be sure when you cross the bridge, look north, you will see a rusted train bridge that crosses the east from the west. But for those that may not be aware, when we was in the Bridge House last night, and many citizens of Albany and the state of Georgia are not aware that the first bridge to cross the Flint River was built in 1859 by a black slave by the name of Horace King. And guess what? When he built the first bridge, he was a slave that was from South Carolina. And he also, if you ever go to Columbus, Georgia, he built the first bridge to cross the Columbus River in Columbus, Georgia. And then he was sold back into slavery back in the 1800s, and he resided in Alabama. And he was bought by an engineer that he built numerous bridges in Alabama and Mississippi. Unfortunately, he returned back to the state of Georgia, and if you decide to visit a landmark, he's buried in LaGrange, Georgia, which that is Troup County, about 50-some miles above Columbus, Georgia. And I share another history, which is about the president of this institution, the founder, Dr. Holly. It is from family reading that he had a close connection to the founder of Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona. Can't confirm it, but there's a strong possibility that they met here in the early 1900s with William E. Du Bois and things of that nature. So we have a rich history, and for those students and future leaders of the world, continue to strive and continue to make this the best university in the 26 universities and state college in the state of Georgia. I'm going to also make a commitment, and I'm going to plead that this is the 27th conference. If it's God's will, I'm asking, and I'm going to put an exclamation mark, I'm demanding that you all come back to this institution of higher learning. Why you should come back? When you look at the president of this institution, the second female, a good professor and a good president. So I told her that I will make a few comments. And Madam President, if there's anything the city of Albany, Georgia can do to help you re-energize this conference and bring it back in 2014, and if it's God's will, I will be on the sidelines of cheerleading saying, come back. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Howard. We truly appreciate all of you, and we truly saw your kind gesture beginning yesterday at the Bridge House and then to the River Aquarium. It was truly an honor to be treated the way you did yesterday, treated the way you did to us yesterday. We want to go ahead to listen to a solo by Jelene Smith. Jelene Smith is a senior health and human performance major, and she is going to give us a solo. Jelene Smith.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun, weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on, I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy water. You know I gotta make a mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. Around the bend might be hard to face, 'cause I'm alone, and I just might fail, but Lord knows I tried. Sure, stars fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. You hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. You hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. You hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I go to prepare a place for you. 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 Thank you.
ASU got talent. Thank you so much. That is a wonderful solo by Jalen Smith, Senior Health and Human Performance Major. We truly appreciate you. Next on our program is African Union Anthem, to be coordinated by Dr. Annalease Gibson, the Director for International Education. Dr. Gibson. Woo!
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Everybody enjoying themselves so far? Whew, I need a minute, right, y'all? Whew, that song get me every time, especially when she sings it. Woo! I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I can't sing, so don't expect that one. All right. If you will, please just follow along with the words. Yes, please stand. I'm sorry. Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. O sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and work together to uphold the rights and fight the cause of freedom. Let us dedicate ourselves to work together to build our strength in unity and peace. Let us all unite and sing together. Flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky. Let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and sing together to uphold the bonds that frame our destiny. The cradle of mankind and fount of culture, our pride and hope at break of dawn. Tree of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gibson, for that. Okay, we will now go over to the roll call of delegations to be led by Dr. Leon Hart, the Assistant Professor of History and also the co-chair for the SEMAU Committee, co-chair of Logistics.
Welcome, everyone. So when I list the country that you're representing, please stand and then say if you're present and voting or just present, please. So first off, we have Angola. Thank you. Capo Verde. Ethiopia. Kenya. Madagascar. Niger. Nigeria. Sierra Leone. Any countries that I have missed? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Leonhardt, for the roll call. And I'll now go ahead and call the chair of the University System African Council, Dr. Charles Oba from Georgia College and State University, for his opening remarks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to the 25th Southeast Model African Union Conference. Please let me begin by repeating again, just like what Dr. Oswake said. Jalen Smith, you got talent. And Albany State University, you got talent. Please, may we give her another round of applause. You have places to go. We appreciate you. I think Dr. Oswake probably may have covered some of the grounds of things I wanted to say, but I'm still going to say something, at least from the University System African Council. Yes, I'm Dr. Charles Oba, Chair of the University System African Council. So I stand before you on behalf of the Council, and my message is from the Council. In keeping with protocol, please permit me to begin my brief remarks or brief welcoming message by recognizing some dignitaries in the House. I must begin this my message by recognizing the President of Albany State University, Dr. Marian Frederick. Madam President, we appreciate so highly for all you have done for us and all that you do for us in the future. Thank you. We also must recognize the Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs of Albany State University, Dr. Angela Peters. The Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Terry Lindsay, please be recognized. Dean, College of Arts and Sciences, Dean Marilyn Hench is also recognized. Dean, College of Business, Education, and Professional Studies, Dr. Peter Owenfo, please be recognized. Heads of departments, directors, faculty, staffs, and students of Albany State University, we salute you. May we also recognize in our midst Dr. Robert Dibia, Associate Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs of Fort Valley State University. What of the mayor of the city of Albany? His Excellency, Mayor Bo Doran. Please join me in giving Mr. Mayor, Commissioners Chad Weberton, John Howard, and other commissioners that may be here in the House. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. Let us also recognize, in a special way, our special guests and excellencies, Her Excellency Ambassador Hede Sekumo Fosu, Ambassador of African Union to the United States of America. Her Excellencies may be on her way coming, Ambassador Amene Simale, Nigeria Consul General, Atlanta, Georgia. Honorable guests, Dr. Akoro Muna, International Legal Consultant and Anti-Corruption Affairs, please recognize him. Honorable delegates and faculty advisors, as chair of the University System African Council, who has the overall responsibility for organizing the Southeast Model African Union Conference, it gives me the greatest pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 25th Annual Southeast Model African Union Conference at Albany State University. SEMAU Conference provides a unique experience because the University System of Georgia, or the University System Councils, is the only of the 4 World Regional Councils set up by the Board of Regents, Systems Council on International Education, that engages in this kind of exercise that gives students the opportunity to practicing the art of diplomacy, while at the same time learning about a particular continent and the issues facing that continent and exploring possible solutions to ease problems. SEMAU itself is a simulation of the annual meetings of heads of states of African Union, and it is really a big conference on Africa affairs that gives students an unprecedented opportunity to learn about all the facets of African life. To the student delegates, this conference is student-centered. Therefore, you are at the center of gravity. As short, it is indeed a pleasure to have you at the 26th Southeast Model African Union Conference. You have selected a particular African country to represent. As ambassadors of countries you are representing, you must take on the character of your country you selected. And that requires that you understand very intimately the position of your country on the issues being debated in various committees. Under the guidance of your esteemed faculty advisors, you have spent the last few months in intense preparation, attending lectures, researching your individual countries and agenda topics, practicing rules, and honing your debate skills. You have been trying diligently to inform yourself not only about African affairs in general, but also about the nature, policies, and attitude of the individual country you are representing at the conference. As you deliberate in your various committees, you keep that in mind. You are now ready to put those skills and the knowledge to use in the 3 days of the conference. In the most African spirit, your task is to work collaboratively as teams with your fellow delegates, as ambassadors and policymakers representing African countries, to find African solutions to African problems. At the end of your deliberation, the resolutions you pass will be sent to the African Union Secretariat in Washington, D.C. for consideration, and they may end up at the African Union headquarters at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Your work is not just theoretical, exercise, but one that has practical implications that may impact the work of the African Union. This simulation of the proceedings of head of states and government of African Union is a splendid exercise. This exercise is designed not only to enrich your understanding of African affairs, but also to hone your diplomatic, leadership, and conflict resolution skills. It also constitutes a hands-on experiential learning or learning beyond the classroom experience, which are very much in line with the focus of the educational pillars of the university system of Georgia that increasingly emphasize the acquisition of global and international competence and hands-on experiential learning. Therefore, the University System African Council congratulates you highly for being so much in keeping with some of the urgent drives that the University System of Georgia values immensely. Beyond providing opportunity for high-impact learning, the SEMAU Conference also creates opportunity for fraternization and lifelong friendship. Therefore, take the time to have fun, socialize, especially during the African night on Friday, and make new friends and rekindle old friendship. To the faculty advisors, this comes very, very, very close to my heart. To the faculty advisors, honestly speaking, there is no amount of thanks that is enough for you, for your dedication, for your students, and to the course. Year after year, for 25 years, you spend countless hours after their normal course loads to recruit students, prepare them, and coach them for this model. There is no out of doubt whatsoever that you are a true believer in the course, and no question among the best that the University System of Georgia has to offer. Because what she has been doing for the 25 years is what I would describe as a labor of love. I am immensely grateful and lucky to serve as your chair. We must extend our utmost gratitude to our host institution, Albany State University, its extended communities, and to the SEMAU director, Dr. Nneka Oswake, co-director Annalease, Gibson, and the conference organizing chairs and committees for planning and preparation for this year's conference. On behalf of the University System African Council, again, welcome to the 25th Southeast Model African Union Conference. We wish you a highly successful conference. Thank you, and may God Almighty bless you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles Obah, the chair, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We will now invite our Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Angela Peters, to deliver her welcome remark. Dr. Peters.
All right, thanks, Dr. Oswake. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is so good to see you all here today. We're delighted to have you here in our home. I have to say good morning to all of our distinguished guests, our ambassadors, our faculty, our staff, and our students. So historically and traditionally here at ASU, we viewed our competition as local. We have viewed our competition as here in Southwest Georgia. But now we realize wholeheartedly that our competition is global. As such, our vision, our mission, our strategic plan here at Albany State is centered on efforts to ensure a global educational experience for all of our students. Our faculty and our students are immersed in research. This research cultivates intercultural competencies. It exposes our students to the world outside of Southwest Georgia. So here at Albany State, we are developing global learning outcomes in many of our general education courses. We also promote faculty professional development, focusing specifically on partnerships and collaborations. And the professional development also focuses on fostering global learning on campus here at ASU. And then what we're really proud of that happened recently is that we have a special issue of a peer-reviewed journal called the Journal of International Research and Review. Dr. Oswake, our fearless leader in this effort, was recently elected to the editorial board of the journal. But what we're really excited about is that the entire journal, like the entire journal from front to back, every single article is based off of research that is conducted by our ASU faculty. So let's give them a round of applause. And so all of our ASU faculty that are featured in this journal, can you please stand so we could recognize you? I know many of you are here, and I thought Dr. DeQueer was in here. All right, thank you very much. And then another point of pride here at ASU is with the Gilman Scholars. Do we have any of our ASU students or non-ASU students who have received a Gilman Scholar? Congratulations. All right, let me tell you why we're excited about this. So, as you know, for a student to be a Gilman Scholar and for a university to produce Gilman Scholars is a big deal. The Gilman Scholarship, which is actually the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship, is sponsored by the United States Department of Education. Gilman Scholars are very, very competitive. Like I said, a huge, big deal. And the Gilman Scholars actually study abroad. So it's an opportunity for us to promote global learning and to promote our study abroad program here at ASU. But what I'm proud to announce is that ASU has just been recognized as one of the top U.S. colleges and universities that sent the most Gilman Scholars to study abroad. So now, President, you see why I absolutely love coming to work every day. I love being a part of this amazing institution. And you know why? Because here at ASU, we understand the importance and the critical nature of having a laser-like focus on international education that goes beyond our local constructs of Southwest Georgia. So I have to thank Dr. Oswake, Dr. Gibson, Dr. Leonhardt, and the entire team for coordinating this wonderful conference and everything that you bring to ASU every day. I also want to thank the students for being here, our ambassadors, our distinguished guests, and Dr. Lawanga for bringing us our guests from Cameroon. I want you to enjoy your visit. It's a pleasure to host you, and as the president always says, excellence is the standard here at ASU. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peters. We are so lucky to have you, and we are so proud of you for leading the course of internationalization at ASU. Thank you. Next on our welcome remark is Dr. Melanie Hatch, Dean, College of Arts and Science, here represented by Professor Charles William, the Associate Dean of the department.
Good morning. I'm Charles Williams, the Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. To begin with, I'd like to say thank everybody for weathering this storm. We are the unsinkable Albany State, and we have weathered many storms. You're safe here with us, and we welcome you to our community and our university. Dr. Hatch was very excited about this and regrets that she could not be here this morning, so I do want to read a letter that she has penned. Dear distinguished visitors, students, faculty, advisors, and guests, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 2022 Annual Southeast Model African Union Conference at Albany State University. We are honored to be hosting this conference, and we appreciate your participation and support. Experiential learning programs like the SEMAU give our students the opportunity to immerse themselves in the economic, political, and social concerns that face Africa today. Programs like this succeed because of the contributions you have all made. Students, as you discuss current issues and work collaboratively to develop solutions, remember that you are always representing your country. Please be thoughtful in your negotiations and considerate of all who are at the table. I know you have expended a great deal of effort to thoroughly research the issues you will be addressing during the conference, and your advisors have worked diligently to prepare you for the work ahead. On behalf of the faculty and staff of the College of Arts and Sciences, I congratulate you all for taking on this challenge. I hope you enjoy the conference and let your hard work shine through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Williams. My apologies, Dr. Terry Lindsay was supposed to go first, so we invite Professor Terry Lindsay, the Vice President of the Division of Student Affairs, to do his welcome.
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope yesterday you enjoyed the opportunity to fellowship over dinner, those of you who came in yesterday, and to connect with each other. It was a great evening, and I hope you had the chance to meet and greet and connect with each other. As Dr. Oswake said, I'm Terry Lindsay. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs here at Albany State University, and I want to join all of my colleagues who have gone before me to say welcome to the Good Life City and welcome to Albany State University. Dr. Oswake and Dr. Gibson have done a fantastic job of preparing a great conference for you. So I hope you will take the opportunity to enjoy all of the things that they have prepared for you, along with their students that have prepared for you. And I want to echo what Dr. Peters said, have fun. Dr. Oswake and Dr. Gibson also spent countless hours kind of preparing our students to be good hosts. So if you need anything, please don't hesitate to stop them to ask for assistance. So again, we're delighted that you're here. Well, hopefully the weather will hold off so you can truly enjoy the conference, the campus, and the city. So again, on behalf of all of us here at Albany State University, we welcome you to our campus, and please do enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lindsay. Dr. Lindsay is a great supporter of our international programs, helping to substitute and grant extra stipend to students who travel, which is scholarship grants and so on and so forth. We truly appreciate you, Dr. Lindsay. I'll now invite our Dean of College of Business, Education, and Professional Studies, Dr. Peter Ngwafo, to do his welcome. Dr. Ngwafo.
Honorable guests, distinguished delegates, faculty, staff, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted and honored to welcome everyone to the 25th Annual Southeast Model African Union Conference, which is designed to promote global learning opportunities for our students and the public about Africa. Thank you for choosing our beautiful campus as the venue for this year's conference, for participating, and for giving us a reason to continue to explore what the remarkable continent of Africa holds in store for the global community. To that end, this conference will afford students a unique opportunity to examine the role and achievements of the African Union as it strives to address the economic, social, political, and security challenges that the continent is currently experiencing. I believe that your participation in the events of this conference will also broaden your understanding of the continent of Africa and strengthen your appreciation for the role that international education plays in the curricula of institutions of higher education in the state of Georgia. Your commitment to engage in student-driven, simulated experiential learning activities that draw on your research to examine the issues that impact the African continent is highly commended. As you engage in lively diplomatic deliberations with your fellow delegates to find solutions to Africa's problems, remember to advocate strongly for your chosen countries. Your thoughtful interactions with each other will hopefully provide you and the public with a better understanding of the role of the African Union in making policy decisions that impact the African continent. I applaud you for your willingness to participate in the activities of this conference, and I wish you well during 3 exciting days here in Albany, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngwafo. We truly appreciate you. I'll now invite Dr. Roger Cloud Liwanga, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice and SEMAU Committee member, to introduce our honorable guest presenter, Dr. Akeremuna. Dr. Liwanga.
Thank you, Dr. Oswake. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Dr. Roger Cloud Liwanga. I'm an assistant professor of criminal justice here at Albany State University. It is an honor for me to introduce a friend, Dr. Akeremuna, who is a prominent Cameroonian lawyer and also a globally renowned anti-corruption expert and the former president of Transparency International Cameroon. Dr. Muna is currently serving as an international legal consultant on the governance and anti-corruption. He is equally advising on governance and anti-corruption the presidency of the Republic of Togo and the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo through the United Nations Development Program. Dr. Muna previously held numerous appointments, including being a member of the independent high-level audit panel of African Union. He was also elected as the president of the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, which is one of the organs of the African Union. He was also the president of the Pan-African Lawyers Union, as well as the president of the Cameroon Bar Association. Dr. Muna was also a member of the International Monetary Fund advisory group for the Sub-Saharan Africa in 2010. He presided the panel of eminent persons that oversees the African peer review mechanism concerning the issue of corruption. He is a member of the governing board of the African Governance Institute and a member of the high-level panel on illicit financial flows from Africa, which is, of course, shared by the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. Dr. Muna was also appointed as the first ever sanctions commissioner of the African Development Bank, and also served as the chair of the Council of International Anti-Corruption Conference. Before inviting Dr. Muna to the podium, I would like to invite you to watch a short clip, and then I'll be giving him the podium to make his presentation.
Good morning. Well, let me start by thanking the historic SEMAU Conference for inviting me. That is, I must actually thank the co-directors, Dr. Oswake and Dr. Gibson. I will crave the indulgence of the City Commissioner to transmit my greetings to Lord Mayor, who is absent, and that gives me a perfect excuse of planning to come back to this great city. Of course, my humble greetings to the institution hosting this 25th conference. In this regard, I must salute and recognize the President, Dr. Frederick, the Provost, Dr. Peters, the Chair of the University Systems, Dr. Uba, and Dr. Lindsay, the Vice President for Student Affairs, and the Associate Dean representing Dr. Hatch, who is absent. And of course, my greetings to Dean Gwafu. Peter, it's a pleasure to see you again here, and congratulations for your great work out here, and I can tell you that back home they're very proud of what you're doing. Good to see you, Peter. And of course, my distinguished homage to the diplomats who are here present and who would come. Well, please. Man proposes and the machine disposes. Before I really get into my paper, I must dispel something, you know. When I turned 50, like 20 years ago, and my hair was going gray, I noticed everybody called me professor or doctor. Well, I'm not a professor, nor am I a doctor. It is true that I've been a lawyer for 45 years, and in many countries, if you're a lawyer, then you're a doctor. So, but when a university starts calling you doctor, I don't know whether it's a hint, nudge, nudge at honoris causa. So, as they say back home, I'm ready to settle. Being on this campus reminds me a lot of my own days. I did a first degree in Washington, D.C. at the American University in International Studies. Then that was in the middle of Watergate, we were starting. Then integrity was a very big thing. As a matter of fact, Jimmy Carter, who replaced Ford, ran on saying, "I will never lie to you." Well, your country has evolved, and now you have alternative facts. I would actually like to ask President Obama about his speech in Ghana. A country needs strong institutions and not strong men. Well, I suppose your country is getting a taste of both. Well, I've been asked to speak about the fight against corruption as a tool for realizing the Africa we want. So what is corruption anyway? Most of the international conventions and treaties will describe to you the offenses, but don't give you any kind of definition, which will cause you to be able to get a quick grasp of it. Well, I've been with Transparency International for the past 22 years. I'm a member of the International Council. And we have a simple definition. Corruption is the use of entrusted powers for personal gain. Simply that. So you don't have to be a government official. You can be anybody. If you use your powers entrusted upon you for personal gain, then. So corruption is a negation of good governance and the rule of law, actually. And by calling into question the equality of citizens before the law, it is a direct attack on human rights and the foundations of democracy. Through the multiple damages it causes or makes possible, it undermines the civic spirit and leads to a loss of confidence of the populations towards their institutions and their leaders. It wastes public resources, it allows regulations to be circumvented, and distorts the rules of competition. Actually, it thus affects growth, sustainable development, and social cohesion. When I go to any country, I have a very simple test to see the level of corruption. Very easy. It's almost biblical. Most religions of the world recognize three things: healing, teaching, and judging. So any country I go to, I look at the judiciary. Is it fair? I look at the health system. Does it take care of the poor? And look at the education system. Does it grant access to everybody? Because you take care of these three areas, you are sure to cover the poorest of the poor. And if you look at most countries today, these are the sectors that are very badly hit by corruption. So that's my simple test. Well, Transparency International has a more sophisticated test called the National Integrity System. And it checks the institutions that it divides into three parts, really. The three pillars. There's the government sector, which is made of the parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. The public sector, which is made of the administration, the institutions of law and order. The commissions are institutions in charge of organizing elections. The ombudsman, the auditors, and the anti-corruption agents, and of course the non-governmental sector, which is made of media, civil society, political parties, and the private sector. These are the three pillars that permit you to assess a country as to the integrity, and for you to be able to see the effectiveness of whether the anti-corruption mechanisms are working. Of course, I cannot end this part without mentioning Africa's own mechanism for monitoring governance. It's the African Peer Review Mechanism, which is the African framework for implementing the new Partnership for Africa's Development, popularly known as NEPAD. I won't bore you with the technicalities of that, but you know, it monitors governance of economics, social affairs, politics and democracy, and it sees, and you go from country to country to evaluate and see how this country stand up to that. I was chair of the panel, you know, for 4 years, and it is quite a process, which is part of the African Union. So, the question is, therefore, what is Africa we want? The horizon is put itself by the African Union in the Agenda 63. And it has 7 aspirations. A prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development, an integrated continent politically united based on the ideals of the Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africa's renaissance, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect of human rights, justice, and the rule of law, a peaceful and secure Africa, an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially its women, youth, and caring for children. I'll just pause about people-driven. As you heard, I'm from Cameroon. The president of Cameroon has been president for the past 40 years. He's 90 years old. And Cameroon is supposed to be people-driven. So these are the kinds of problems that the continent has to deal with. And then, of course, the seventh aspiration is Africa, a strong and united Africa, resilient and influential global partner and player. That really resounds from the anthem which we heard before. Well, the topic says fighting corruption is a tool. It is not a tool. It's the tool, the only one that will make the continent survive. Well, if you want to call it a tool, it's probably a Swiss knife with many tools in it. But it's the only tool. And I can tell you that. And also, in many countries today, elections are fought on one single agenda, the fight against corruption. I suppose in your country you call it draining the swamp, I think. And corruption is systemic. It's not about people. It's not about color. It's not about regions. It is systemic. I'll just pause for 1 minute and ask the students a question. I'll just tell you about a country, and I can see who can guess this country. This country, $23 billion was spent on procurement. Nobody can account for $13 billion. Generals used some of the money, took it as bribery in procurement. Oil produced by the country was not accounted for. Who can guess this country? You, the students and delegates. Nobody? Yeah, please. Nigeria, yes? Angola or Congo, yes? Okay. So to you guys, corruption is geographical. Well, that was Iraq managed by the United States. The United States managed Iraq by provisional government that took in cash $23 billion in shrunken bales by C-130 aircrafts flown from New York into Iraq. And everything was done in cash. American generals who were in charge of procurement doubled prices of goods to be able to take the money. To this date, nobody knows where $13 billion went. And to this date, there is no accounting for the oil sold then. So it's a systemic problem. If you have an economy that deals in cash, of course. If you have a problem which is electronic and digital, it becomes more difficult. You have a system that has control, it's difficult. So corruption is systemic. It's not the region, it's not the color, it's not even the people. It is the system. And those who want to steal will fix the system to steal. As President Bush used to say, they would cook the books and protect the crooks, I think he said. So, but for Africa, corruption is an existential problem. It's not a joking matter. It is existential. And when it becomes systemic, the human element is taken out of it. And that's where it is sad. I'll tell you a short story. In my country, Cameroon, I was talking to the Italian ambassador about 15 years ago, and some Italian sisters had come to vaccinate. And they brought out of vaccines, but the population was so big. So they recruited some Cameroonian nurses to assist them to go through the vaccines. And since it was for 2 weeks, they said, okay, we'll pay by ampoules, you know. At the end of the day, we'll count the ampoules and all that. And they discovered that the Cameroonian nurses are really experienced. They are fast in vaccinating. Only to find out that to make more money, some of the nurses broke the ampoules and threw away the vaccines. It didn't occur to them that for every vaccine they threw away, the child was not vaccinated. Because all they were functioning in is a system in which everybody is driven by greed and looking to make money. I don't think they actually thought that they were depriving children of vaccines. But you know, this is the real effect of corruption. I will, to make the link, because the question was, how can fighting against corruption cause Africa to get to the 2063 agenda with the 7 aspirations I just told you about? One element is illicit financial flows. Now, illicit financial flows, simply put, is money that violates the laws of the country it's living, violates the country it is passing through, or violates the law of the country it's going to. That is an illicit financial flow. And African Minister of Finance in 2011 said, you know what? We have to find out what Africa has to do to be able to live from its own means. Take the DRC. DRC today produces 60 to 80% of the minerals needed for electric cars and telephones. There's not a single factory in that country. Mining is still artisanal. And the industry there thrives on child labor. And the people are really living in abject poverty. And how is that possible? If you could harness just that alone, the DRC would be one of the richest countries in the world. So illicit financial flows, these ministers got together, they ordered a study, and what did they find? That $50 to $80 billion leave Africa every year. And that is 3 times the amount of foreign aid sent to Africa. So just by harnessing that money alone, we could take care of our own business. So that, to me, is the link that if we could fight corruption, we will be able to have the means that will permit the continent, you know, to fend for itself. This high-level panel, which is chaired, because it's still sitting now, by the former president of South Africa, Dr. Thabo Mbeki. I mean, I've met somebody with such brilliance. It's brilliant president. I know now why Mandela chose him to be his vice president, or the first vice president Mandela chose. He led this, and I got to understand that Africa could take care of its own, just if it is left alone. Just if we can forget about greed. Because seriously, corruption is only about greed. That's it. You know, I was talking to a World Bank rep, and he said, well, you know, Mr. Muna, what's the relationship between low salaries and corruption? I said, well, I don't want to talk about the link. Do you think the president of Equatorial Guinea is poor? Do you think the president of Cameroon is poor? Do you think the president of Gabon is poor? But these are the guys taking the money. So corruption is a moral issue, and you can't link that to an issue about the salary. And this illicit financial flows, we started talking about recovery of assets. About 15 years ago, I was at a meeting in Paris, and there was a French Minister of Finance, and many Swiss bankers were there. And the World Bank has started a policy called the STAR Initiative, which is Stolen Assets Recovery Initiative. You know, then it was a story about African kleptocrats and all that, and so the acronym Stolen Assets Initiative was very good. It was catchy. Then we were in this conference, we talk about the Stolen Assets Initiative, and towards the end of the conference, I asked to speak. I said, well, listen, excuse me, Chair, but I'm a lawyer, and if you say goods are stolen, you're saying the person who is keeping it is a handler of stolen goods. So therefore, the Western banks are handlers of stolen goods. Therefore, every time you talk about a corrupt African leader, you should talk about the bank that took the money. Otherwise, the picture is not complete. So that's it. And I started pushing for the fact that how can you, a bank, accept of $700 million, say from Abacha, and nobody says anything? $700 million. They're in the bank. And the account is frozen, and you keep the money till the case is decided. No interest paid. $700 million. And you keep the money. What is the moral basis of that bank, a handler of stolen goods, keeping the money? There is none, absolutely none. So I started promoting an idea 20 years ago to have escrow accounts, that every time money is frozen in one of these delinquent banks, the money should be moved to a development bank for custody till they decide who gets the money. And the money can earn interest. So 20 years afterwards, I was able to get President Thabo Mbeki to endorse this, and it's now being debated at United Nations about the creation of escrow accounts. That is why the African Union has created something called the Common African Policy on the Return of Assets. It's CAPAR. I'm a chair of that working group. So corruption is something you can't fight alone. It takes two to tango. The countries where this is happening and the countries where the money is leaving must talk. And actually, I was very impressed in June of last year, actually, when President Biden issued what he called the memorandum establishing the fight against corruption as a core United States national security interest. Shows you the importance. He says, corruption corrodes public trust, hobbles effective governance, distorts markets and equitable access to services, undercuts development efforts, contributes to national fragility, extremism, and migration, and provides authoritarian leaders a means to undermine democracies worldwide. When leaders steal from their nation's citizens or oligarchs, when they flout the rule of law, economic growth slows, inequality widens, and trust in government plummets. In financial terms alone, the costs of corruption are staggering. It has been estimated that acts of corruption sap between 2 to 5% of global gross domestic product. While such costs are not evenly shared worldwide, the abuse of power for private gain, that's the definition we had, the misappropriation of public assets, bribery, and other forms of corruption impact every country and community. And that, you can find on the website of the White House about this policy, which I will end on the case I think the BBC interviewed me about. Do you think you can run that?
Now to a story of corporate bribery and corruption. A UK fraud investigation covering 5 African countries has ordered the UK arm of Swiss commodities firm Glencore to pay more than $300 million in penalties for bribing officials in exchange for oil contracts in Africa. The court found that executives from the company carried millions in cash by private jet to get favourable deals in Nigeria, Cameroon, in Ivory Coast, Equatorial Guinea and in South Sudan. It's the first time in the UK that a company has been found guilty of authorising corruption rather than simply turning a blind eye to it. Akere Muna is a Cameroonian anti-corruption lawyer, former vice president of Transparency International, and a member of the African Union High-Level Panel on Illicit Financial Flows from Africa. Will this fine, I asked him, act as a deterrent to future corruption?
From what I'm hearing, the full fine and that has been levied, doesn't even reach the amount of profits that Glencore makes in a week. So, as an African, who has been in this area for the past 20-odd years, it's a bit saddening because it is, in terms of the UK and the US, it's a simple violation of the law. And while in terms of Africa, we the victims, we don't get a dime out of it. And the fact that our countries are not doing anything about it is even more saddening.
These are convictions involving 5 countries. How widespread is this sort of illegal activity, do you think?
I think it is. I mean, as the judge said in court today, it was part of Glencore's culture, and one can therefore guess that Glencore, which is one of the biggest commodity traders, that was his modus vivendi, and that's how it made its money, and to be the kind of wealth the company it is today. And the extractive industry, is known to be the real home for the biggest corrupt practices. I mean, that is why the EITI initiative, which was promoted by TI and actually brought into force, I think, by Tony Blair, is very important from the point of view that it tries to bring transparency into this. But, it is the nature of the trade makes it very, very amenable to corrupt practices. And, I think it'll take 2 to tango. I mean, for example, in the present case of Glencore, it would have been very helpful if the British and American authorities would tell the countries, the 5 countries you mentioned, who are those they paid? Because now the guys say they paid. The next question is, who did you pay? And that, to me, will take all of 2 minutes. I mean, in Cameroon, Glencore is still operational. Someone should call them and say, man, who did you pay? And
why won't they release those details?
Can only promote. Wow, that's the question. That's the question. It really beats me because we go on and speeches and global North countries talk about corruption in the South and all that, and there they are, America and the UK, with names of people who took bribes, and they're not published. That's sad, isn't it?
there are quite crude operations involved, really. I mean, the bribes were barely disguised. They were called in contracts things like signing fees and success bonuses. They barely covered their tracks.
Yeah, in some cases they call them magazines and stuff like that, and flying around with the cash in private jets. I mean, it sounds like some kind of drug cartel in Latin America. It's crazy. I mean, but I think naming and shaming is the old trick that does it.
Okay.
Once your name is out there, it's helpful.
That was Ekere Muna, a Cameroonian anti-corruption lawyer and former vice president of Transparency International.
So my battle now is to try and get those names out. It's amazing that the DOJ has they're going to be fining Glencore $1.4 billion. Not a dime goes to the African countries. In the U.S., only a violation of the law. And we can't get the names of the people to whom the money was paid. And that's sad. But anyway, the youth are there, the hope of the future. I remember when I was in high school, I was told that we the youth are the future of tomorrow, or future of the country. Well, the guy who told me that, he's still president. I don't think that will be in your case. So have a good conference, and thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that jaw-dropping presentation, that we are getting that information for the first time. That is truly, truly enlightening, and a lot to add to the discussion that we have this afternoon. Thank you so, so much. We appreciate hearing from the horse's mouth. You are the front line and you witness everything and you're sharing it directly with us. It's a privilege, honestly, to have you with us today. Thank you. We'll now go. We have one more thing to do before we go on a lunch break. We have a special award to make to an extraordinary person and a talent that we have on campus, a very humble person. And we invite our president and the provost to help us with doing this presentation. I'll also invite the Director for International Education, Dr. Gibson, to help us with, is she here? Okay. We'll invite this extraordinary person has served as the advisor for the Southeast Model African Union Conference for ASU for over 15 years. He has advised all our students. We have lots of alumni of the Southeast Model African Union, and many of them are working in various industries now. But he has been the singular person. I know I usually go with him, but he does the bulk of the work of compiling the history of every country we have chosen as to be a delegation to the country. We've been delegates to Morocco, Ghana, and numerous other countries. This year we are delegates to Angola. This person is behind all that we have been doing. And he was here before I came here in 2004. And he was doing this. To read a little bit of what this distinguished professor has done. Dr. Kwame Dankwa joined the political science faculty of Albany State University in January of 2001. By September of the same year, Dr. Dankwa was handed an invitation letter from the International Model United Nations Conference Secretariat by the then chairman of the department, Dr. Michael Orrock, to prepare Albany State students to participate in the annual International Model United Nations Conference at the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan, New York, in April of 2002. So for the first time, without any experience, he engaged in this preparation. He did research and started off, selected students, and without much delay, Dr. Dankwa set his eyes on the three political science majors who showed much interest and resolve to meet the challenge. It turned out to be the very educational in preparing students for public speaking, conflict resolution, and international diplomacy. With financial and institutional support from the then President, Dr. Portia Shield, and cooperation of the Political Science Faculty, Dr. Dankwa not only succeeded in preparing students for the subsequent 2003 and 2004 sessions of the prestigious Model United Nations Conference, he worked hard to increase the number of ASU participating students from 3 to 8, from 3 in 2002 to 8 in 2003, and to 10 in 2004, respectively. With budget cuts and other austerity measures gripping the entire state of Georgia, it became impossible for Albany State to fund subsequent trips to New York. Although by this time the Model United Nations as a course has been developed and accepted by ASU curriculum and new programs committee just about the same time. ASU new provost at that time, Dr. Perkins, showed extraordinary eagerness to promote curriculum internationalization, and at that time advised to align ourselves with the Board of Regents African Council and join the Southeast Model African Union's SEMAU Annual Conference Series. Here, conferences are hosted in rotation by the Georgia State University Systems institutions. These turned out to be less expensive. Dr. Dankwa took over the SEMAU mantle from Dr. Emmanuel Conde of the then History, Political Science, and Public Administration Department in 2006, and has not missed a conference up till last year, where he could not accompany students and faculty to Milledgeville session due to ill health. Over the last 15 years, Dr. Dankwa has prepared students to SEMAU conferences hosted by the systems institutions including Savannah State, Columbus State, Macon State University, and a lot of them, Kennesaw State, Clayton State. Although Dr. Dankwa was not as active in preparing this year's ASU delegation as a past due to health reasons, we are glad he's here today to receive the award. Dr. Dankwa. Albany State University Special Award to our outstanding SEMAU Campus Advisor, Dr. Kwame Dankwa. This award is in recognition of your excellence, leadership, dedicated years of service as SEMAU advisor to ASU students, with sincere appreciation presented during the 25th anniversary of the Southeast Model African Union Conference, November 10, 2022.
I'm overwhelmed. Didn't expect this. Didn't see it coming. Madam President, Madam Provost, Dr. Oswake, and all the SEMAU Planning Committee, including the President of the African Council. I'm really humbled by this award. I thought I was doing my job. Everybody's paid to do their job, so the extra effort I put in was, to me, just fulfilling my duties. We've come a long way, as Dr. Oswake said. I was the first to take students to model United Nations. But imagine the cost. Flying students, first of all, our bus would drive us to Atlanta, and we'll pick airplane to New York, stay in the most expensive hotel for 10 days, and then fly back. That was expensive. So by 2004, due to budget cuts, it became impossible for the school to sponsor us. And that's why we switched over to SEMAU, which is easier and cheaper and nearer. But the principles are the same. We represent individual countries. In Model United Nations, we represent countries of the whole world. But in SEMAU, we only represent African countries. And we've been working hard. We've been going to places, like Dr. Oswake mentioned. Savannah State alone has hosted it 5 times. Every student wants to go to Savannah because of the ocean. We don't have a sea. But then our faculty members were always, when is Albany State hosting SEMAU? When is Albany State hosted? We couldn't find an answer to it. But the last 3 years, we used the consolidation. Okay, we are in the process of consolidating. Once we get our act together, you hear from us. That was just to create time. And I'm very, very happy to learn that we have finally been able to host it. Too bad I couldn't attend the one hosted by my friend, Dr. Uba, in Milledgeville, but I'm glad he's here to witness ours. So I just tell my students, just be focused about this, because this is for real. Globalization, yeah, that's where it starts. And many of us don't know where we are going to have jobs. Many of us may be working overseas, either with governmental agencies or with private companies. So we've got to learn as many cultures as we can, understand political systems worldwide, so that if we happen to be anywhere apart from our home, we should be able to subsist. Again, thank you, Madam President, and your staff. And I didn't see this coming. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
What we have now is to introduce our special keynote speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Hilda Suka-Mafuze, the Ambassador of African Union Mission to the United States of America. And I'm going to invite her special assistant, Seraphine, to do the introduction. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I hope we enjoyed the good lunch. So we are ready to receive and to listen to our keynote speaker of the day. Let me introduce her. So Ambassador Hilda Suka-Mafuze, she is the permanent representative of the African Union to the United States of America. Her core mandate is to enhance and maintain existing bilateral ties between Africa and the US. These ties strengthen democratic institutions, advance trade and investment, knowledge sharing, promote peace and security, mutual relationships between US and all 55 AU member countries based on culture and shared values. Ambassador Suka-Mafuze she is a career diplomat with experience that spans the African continent. She assumed her most recent duties on November 2nd in 2020 in Washington, D.C. Prior to that, she was an ambassador of her home country, Zimbabwe, to Sudan and South Sudan between 2010 and 2019. And most recently, she was the ambassador to Malawi. Ambassador is well known as a quiet champion of democracy. Also, I have to mention that while she was in Malawi, she chaired the group of regional ambassadors representing the South African diplomatic community, SADC. And she was also an observer to African Union observers and other in other elections in Africa. Also, I have to mention that while she was in Khartoum, Sudan, and South Sudan, she led important high-level political processes that continue to move the entire region toward greater peace and security. And I have to mention that Ambassador was also a member of the parliament in her country, Zimbabwe. So without further ado, let me invite Her Excellency Ambassador Hilda Sukamafuze to the stage for the keynote speech. Please help me to welcome her.
Let me say greetings to everyone. And I want to apologize for not making it yesterday. Well, if it were possible, I would have split myself, find me here, and find me in Washington, D.C. But anyway, that could not work. But I said to myself, today I have to be at Albany University. It was really important for me. When things went the way they did yesterday, I just said to myself, I know they will understand. And thank you for understanding, I must say. Greetings, everyone. And let me say what a professional honor and a personal joy it is for me to be with distinguished civic leaders, faculty students of Albany State University, and friends of the proud state of Georgia, who share a universal mission with the people of the United States of America, African Union, and the nations of the continent of Africa. They say education sets people free. It's one saying that I buy into. I wouldn't be standing here. I would have been somewhere else. But you define yourself and you find yourself in a place where you find it goes along with the works that you will have done. I think this talk is more to the students. The professors have achieved, they've already gotten there. Yes. Let me go into my salutations. Let me say the president of Albany State University, Dr. Marion Ross Frederick, Provost Vice President of Academic Affairs, Albany State University, Dr. Angela Peters, the Albany City Mayor, Bo Doraf, a special ASU guest, Dr. Akere Muna, ASU Vice Presidents, Deans, Directors, guests, faculty, and advisors and students. Thank you for inviting me. I thank you for the honor to be with you at this 25th annual Southeast Regional Model African Union Conference organized by Albany State University, Georgia. The African Union and the 54 member states, our member African Diplomatic Corps in Washington are busy preparing for the, we'll call it second, but though it has come after 8 years, the first Leaders Summit between Africa and the US took place in 2014. Yes, during the time of President Obama. And now, we're in 2022, another Leaders Summit comes into being. We are really proud of this relationship that is taking shape between Africa and the US. However, due to the importance of the AU leadership attaches to this event in the state of Georgia, nothing would have kept us from being at the Albany State University, which caused me to say, Seraphine, please, just be there well on time. I will come, I will follow. But anyway, we are here and we are excited. Africa Gathering today, since I took office in October 2020, I participated virtually on all the Model African Union conferences. However, there is nothing better than being here in person to be with the people of Georgia and sharing with them what comes from Africa. And I hear we have member states here who are represented, who are representing African countries. So please join me in recognizing the remarkable leadership of my brother, Professor Michael Nwanze, for his leadership in promoting Africa and the Africa Union through the AU model. And on equal opportunity basis, give thanks to my sister, Professor Nneka Nora Oswake. I thank you, my sister, for inviting me and to give me an opportunity to talk about the continent of Africa. Yes. I thank you for inviting me for this annual Southern Eastern Regional Model African Union Conference. I would be remiss not to also commend all faculty members present, who for many years have driven the Model African Union in your different universities. Indeed, this AU model constitutes an irreplaceable opportunity offered to students to get more knowledge about Africa and the African Union. Most certainly, the conference has inspired many students to learn about the continent of Africa, its people, and culture, and it will continue to do so. You have our African Union mission leadership commitment, actively participate in the AU model program in Georgia, and we will always do that. Each year, we will not wait to hear wherever it is taking place. African Union certainly will be there. The US-Africa Leaders Summit will build on the following priority program pillars. This is a summit that is coming on the 13th to 15th of December, where all the leaders of Africa are coming to the US. We have been invited by President Biden to see areas where we can work together. Well, I think we should relate it to, even when you invite someone to your house, you are saying, I'm showing you love. I'm showing you how I would want us to relate. So to me, nothing much can be done in 3 days, but it's what will happen after this summit and what has been happening before the summit in the times that we are in at the moment. The Leaders Summit will strengthen a more mutually beneficial and respectful bilateral relationship between the continent of Africa and the United States of America. Foster economic engagement, advance peace, security, and good governance, reinforce commitment to democracy, human rights, and civil society, work collaboratively to strengthen regional and global health security, promote food security, respond to the climate crisis, expand our national network of African American diaspora programs, and promote education, youth leadership, and citizenship development priorities. All these are issues that are bedeviling us from the US, also in Africa. These are issues where we are saying, let's come together in the shape that world that we want to live in. The African Union mission that I am currently leading has greatly contributed in strengthening the US-Africa ties by ensuring that the African Diplomatic Corps speaks with one voice on critical issues. The AU mission plays the key role of secretariat to our African member states. Ladies and gentlemen, the African Union vision is of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens. That's the outcry of Africa today. We have a vibrant young people on the continent. There is diversity, and we are thriving on that richness of diversity. And we have enriched ourselves in that process. And we have said in that diversity and the way we are as different as we are, let's come together and speak with one voice, firstly, on issues that concern us, and run with those issues. And I foresee by 2030, surely Africa getting to that point whereby we say this is what we have worked for, African Union has worked for the Africa that we want. It only takes the people themselves who stand up and say, what is it we want? I've never seen, when I take it to levels of family settings, I've never seen another man comes in and makes sure your household is looking good, or another mother from another house coming into your house to make it look good. You really have to stand. It takes two to tango. Mommy and daddy have to stand up and make sure things are okay in their household. It's the same. Even if we have to get help from the USA, we want to help you build your continent, they have to find us also prepared. There is a saying where I come from where they say, even if someone is coming to help you, but he has to find you with that strength to say, yes, you are coming to help me, but let me also help lift this heavy load, and let's make it better. So this is what Africa is striving for. There's a vibrant young people who are yearning for sovereignty and dignity. And they're saying, I'm an African person. I step out there. I have to command the respect as an African. So we are working so hard as the African Union. People are out there making sure we put together what we want. But at the same time also President Biden says, I want to work with you. Africa is going to be a source of employment, of people looking for people to employ at some point in time. There's a young people there. 60% are people who are 25 years and below. Seraphine, is it? 25 and below. That's 60% of the population of Africa. So what are we saying? We gotta prepare for them today. We nurture for what we want today to take shape tomorrow. They cannot go through what we went through ourselves. We have the African vision, which I said we are looking at an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. We're not waiting to be called to the table. We are demanding our seat. We are getting there to say we will be here at the table and make decisions of the world together. Thank you. We come together, but Africa is saying we're here, there's no, when people just start discussing about you when you are not there, I don't think they'll do real justice. Yes, but you have to be there to ensure your interests are protected. And I know before, as Seraphine said, I've been a member of parliament. And before, you wouldn't see younger members of parliament in the houses. You'd see older people. These are people who have developed businesses already, and they're in there to protect their interests. But today, even young people, you see them in parliament, it means they know what they want, and they know what the future that they want to lead. Let me not divert too much and stick to the paper with the issues of Africa that I'm talking of here. It's still the same issues, but let me stick to the paper for the time being. I said, in addition, the African Union is guided by the African Union Agenda 2063. You must have heard of the blueprint and master plan for transforming Africa into a global powerhouse of the future. The Africa we want and need in the 21st century. The AU Agenda 2063 is composed of 7 priority goals. However, today I will focus on only 3 critical areas: peace and security in Africa, trade and investment, and climate change. These are the issues. Students, I think you are quite aware of this. These are the issues today that we're talking about. On peace and security, let me say I was privileged just recently to attend the 13th high-level retreat on the promotion of peace, security, and stability in Africa. Last month in Windhoek, in Namibia. The theme of the conference was transformative mediation for Africa's effective governance and peace dividends. Without peace, we can't develop. So we have to work towards making our continent a place where everybody, even ourselves, the people from the continent, really vie to say we want to see development in this place. But there has to be peace. It is important today that I underscore the continuous efforts made by the African Union Commission to support member states in their efforts to prevent and resolve violent conflict. You may have heard of the conflicts on the continent, but I'll tell you, it's no longer like what it was. Let's give 10, 20 years ago. Things are improving. There is that conscience that we know what we want. We want that sovereignty. We want that dignity in the things that we shouldn't do. At some point in time, that will be a thing of the past, that the conflicts, Africa is known for conflicts. It will be a thing of the past. There's a lot of work going on at the moment, but we decided it has to be inclusive. The mediations that are being done on the continent have to be inclusive of the women and of the younger people. When you say conflict, do you think of older people, there are younger people. It means there's something amiss. And those are the areas that we are working on. To see to it, this conflict is a thing of the past in the continent. And so to pave way for development. Indeed, the African Union has the prominent role of leading and supporting various mediation dialogue and other peace processes across the continent. This year's retreat focused on mechanisms of a meaningful inclusion of African women, as I've said, and youth in mediation, conflict prevention and resolution, and peace building. And culminated in the official launch, it's culminated in the launch of Wise Youth African Network that will be promoted throughout the continent of Africa. I really put my finger on that, and they say, yes, that's how we're shaping Africa. The inclusion of the younger people and the women for peace to develop, so that we'll be able to develop, make better where we live. A major accomplishment was signing of a cessation hostilities agreement between the government of Ethiopia. Some must have read of it. It happened last week. In the Tigray People's Liberation Front last week, discussions are going on with the facilitation of His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, African Union High Representative for the Horn of Africa region, and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, a former President of the Republic of Kenya. African Union Peace Envoy to the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region to resolve the few remaining outstanding issues for the consolidation of a lasting peace in Ethiopia. It has resulted in deeper knowledge as to how we can best resolve through peaceful and mutual respect for individual differences within other nations in Africa. Yes, we've talked of diversity. Sometimes that difference can make us not come close and do things together. But these are also issues that we are working on to make better, to say, let's work together in that diversity of ours, in which is richness to us. Like other African continental programs, the Peace and Security Mission is coordinated from member states through the regional economic communities to the African Union level. In your simulation, I propose that you analyze the ways to include the critical role of the RECs in the peace-building processes. Regional economic commissions. You must have heard that Africa is vast. For those who come from Africa, you know there's East, West, Central, Southern, the Maghreb, you name it. It's so vast. So if efforts are driven from those regions, yes, it will saturate the continent, the whole continent. On trade and investment, the African Union developed the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, which is a flagship project of the AU Agenda 2063. Today, African countries trade more with the rest of the world than with themselves. Only up to 18% of all trade on the continent occurs between African countries. In Europe, which is very insignificant, isn't it? In Europe, about 70% of trade happens within the continent of Europe. While in North America and Asia, it's about 54 and 51 respectively. This is a concern for Africa, which is about 17% of world population, but accounts for only 2.1% of world trade and 2.9% of world GDP. You see where we are coming from? The AFCFTA presents an opportunity to accelerate intra-African trade and use trade more effectively as an engine for growth and sustainable development. The AFCFTA is, however, not just about trade in goods. It covers trade in services, investment, intellectual property rights, competition policy, digital trade and women and young people in trade. It creates a rules-based system backed up with a dispute settlement and mechanism to give investors confidence in the due process. Today, with the AfCFTA, Africa has an opportunity to achieve its long-standing goal of economic diversification through industrialization to further raise the standard of living of its people and reduce poverty. It is an opportunity to create more better paying jobs and more economic opportunities for Africans. The AfCFTA is therefore focused on better tomorrow for the 1.3 billion Africans and their livelihoods, and a recognition that by 2050, that the population of the continent of Africa will exceed 2 billion. And 50% will be young people under the age of 25. In partnership with the Afrexim Bank, a biennial intra-African trade fair has been established to facilitate the process of traders in Africa establishing supply chain network and the business connectivity so that with the tariff book in front of them for a particular market, they would already have the right networks to start trading. These are some of the works we are doing on the continent. The second IFTF 2021 was hosted by the Republic of South Africa in Durban, South Africa from 15 to 21 November 2021, under the theme Building Bridges for Successful African Continental Free Trade Area. I just want to say more around that. It will be the biggest trade market for 1.3 billion people. We are yearning to do business amongst ourselves with those recs that I talked about. To like when we do production in one region, the integration that I'm talking about, the infrastructure connectivity, let it also saturate into the next region. Let's do business together. And when we do business together, it will allow also those who want to are coming in to do business with us, to come in with that respect. And they will be able to let go what we have that they may be needing with the value that it deserves. So once we come together, realizing who we are and what we want to go out there, it will help us not to be shortchanged. The second, I talked about this. Africa is on the move toward a much brighter future in the 21st century, and our goal of more mutually beneficial and a respectful bilateral relationship is critical to achieving that goal. Given the importance of an e-commerce during the COVID-19 pandemic, having rules that govern trading on digital platforms cannot be overemphasized. Also, as no country can develop without the other half of its population, women and the youth, matter to us greatly. It is a major reason why we are taking concrete steps to ensure that women and young Africans are at the heart of implementation of the AfCFTA, this big market that everyone is just like, if Africa start doing business amongst themselves. And we are looking to romp in even the Caribbeans to do business with us and increase our number. It won't only be 1.3 billion, it will be more than that. So it will be a force to reckon with. Let me put it that way. Africa can increasingly become the base for American companies. I try to talk about that a little area. To trade not only with Africa, but also with the rest of the world. With the AfCFTA, Africa will not just be a market, but also a platform to manufacture and export to other regions of the world with specific focus on the global African diaspora network. The third sector I would like to discuss here is climate change. As we all know, the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, is being held right now in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. It's ongoing. Addressing COP, His Excellency Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal, and the current President of the African Union, said that African countries need to be compensated for the environmental damage done by industrial nations. He added that Africa is seeing the impact of climate change every day. And there is growing awareness that the developing nations need expanded support from the leading countries in global community. During 2022, here are some examples of the negative impact of global warming and the pollution on the continent of Africa. Drought and famine, we are experiencing that right now, which have killed about 2,500 people in Uganda and affected 8 million in Ethiopia. More than 600 people have died in Nigeria's worst floods in a decade. This includes 76 people who were killed when a boat carrying food victims capsized. Southern Africa countries, including Madagascar and Mozambique, Zimbabwe too, were battered by 6 severe storms, killing at least 890, if not 1,000 plus. And our experience is having people who are very much affected saying, at a plain ground like this, that's where our house used to be. And these are people who have made it because they were not in those houses at the given time. But it just came and covered everything. Shops, stores, and whatever. That's climate change we are experiencing on the continent today. Temperatures reached 48 degrees Celsius in Tunisia in July, fanning the flames of extreme wildfires. Nearly 2 million people in Chad were affected by floods in August and October. In April, 459 people were killed and further 40,000 affected in floods and landslides in South Africa province of KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape. All these are challenges that we are seeing on the continent. And we are saying, let's be fair here. We have not, as Africa, industrialized. But these effects are coming from the industrialized nations. And we are saying, let's sit down and talk and make better Africa. And see how we can transform ourselves to the green energy. Now, if patience is a virtue, and I believe it is so, I want to thank each of you for your exceptional attention during my remarks today and the personal commitment to an expanded relationship between the USA and Africa. We live in a diverse, multicultural, and interconnected world where big data and digital platform world have created global communities and knowledge transfer capabilities. However, knowledge is not power. The use of knowledge is what produces the results in which we run with. So I reiterate the AU's readiness to work with you to support Africa and the African Union's priority programs in the USA, particularly among the younger generation. The students participating to the 2022 International Model Africa Union students to the 25th Annual Southeast Regional Model African Conference are ambassadors for Africa by spreading the good news about Africa. Networking with others personally or using social media for knowledge sharing or conducting constructive debates on the African Union Agenda 2063 and the points highlighted today. Remember, it takes a team working in harmony to achieve a goal. So have a productive conference and keep up the great Africa work. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this wonderful educational program today. And I just would, before I leave the stage, I would want to know which countries are represented here, the African countries which are represented here. Angola. Wow. Thank you. Angola. What other country? Oh, wow. Yes, yes, yes. Cabalgado. Oh, wow. Yes. Niger. Sierra Leone. In Nigeria. All right. Yes. Any other? Oh, that's it. Let me say, I just want to give a comment to the Niger. There's a very big conference going on next week in Niger for industrialization, Africa shaping its industrialization agenda. So it will be taking place about next week, so you should be checking. So that's something that you should be looking at. For Nigeria, I think you have elections coming, isn't it? Are you aware of all that? Yes, yeah, you have elections coming. I don't know Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone, your president is running with the issue of the diaspora, and they're working very strongly in the continent and the diaspora here to ensure the diaspora invest on the continent. Yes. And, oh, Angola. Oh, you guys. Yeah. You have all the minerals, and you are rich. You should share. And that one is, what country? Oh, Cape Verde. Cape Verde, it's not much knowing what is happening right now, but we are working with the ambassador in the capital, in Washington, D.C. Oh, Madagascar. Oh, Madagascar. That's... Oh, Cape Verde in the Madagascar. Your islands, you guys. And we really would want to join you so that we enjoy the seafood. We know you are doing very well in that. You should push it into the countries that are landlocked, like my country, Zimbabwe. Yes. Did I comment on everyone? Yeah. Oh, Kenya. Oh, Kenya. Kenya, you just did elections. And we just think this idea of transfer of power, which was done peacefully, that's one other item that you can run with. You also to get other countries also to learn the transfer of power peacefully makes the continent to stabilize. Which other one I didn't comment on? I did comment on everyone, is it? Yeah, everyone. And I thank you for inviting me, Professor. Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hold on.
All right.
Dr. Gibson. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for that high-powered presentation, touching on all the countries and gradually touching on all the critical issues that's going to be driving the further academic conversations that we are going to be holding in the SEMAU sessions. So We are pleased to, this is ASU token present to you. Souvenir from our president and provost for academic affairs and all of us.
I really appreciate.
Present this to you. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In terms of bringing the AU ambassadors to the Southeast Model African Union Conference. This lady here with us does the connection for all the campuses moving from Kennesaw State, Georgia College and State University, Middle Georgia State University. If you want to bring in the ambassador to your campus, you've got to connect with her. And she's on phone all the time. She will tell you how to, even if the ambassador doesn't know much about SEMAU, she will sit down and give them tutoring about SEMAU. Why Africa should be at the top of the agenda. Please help me to bring her to this table.
Good afternoon, everyone, respected the president and all the delegates here. So my first question is jobs for youth. We have seen how the African continent has suffering from the child labor because of the mining industries and a lot of other things. My question is, are there any concrete mechanisms set by many African countries to facilitate the creation of jobs?
To me?
Yes, or anyone.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of work. There's so many moving parts on the continent at the moment. I hope you are hearing me, yeah. There are so many moving parts on the continent today that people are putting it together to ensure you young people will be employed. And when I simply just talk of we are yearning to industrialize, we are yearning for sovereignty and dignity, what are we saying? We cannot have our children crossing the Mediterranean to go look for jobs outside the continent. We have to put in place what makes us develop employment. I would say, to answer directly your question, we have realized as Africa that the raw materials that we have on the continent, we have been driving them as raw as they are. Yes, there were some people using them and doing the production, and they were coming in to sell to us when it's a final product. And we have realized that, no, that's where we are missing in the production process. Let's do beneficiation. Let's work on polishing our diamonds. Let's make the rings and they sell the ring at the end of the day. It's part of creating employment. That's just one. I know maybe Prof will be able to mention some of them, but that integration that I spoke about, AFCFT is working on. We're looking to manufacture within ourselves, do manufacturing. There could be some things in Nigeria which are not in Zimbabwe, but we would want those things, but we don't know them being made in Nigeria. But that connectivity will help us. People will be employed in this digital world that we are in. Thank you.
Follow-up question. I feel it's called point of order. So my point of order is, yes, you said that, you know, you're trying to develop jobs for people and everything. Before jobs, the first is education. If there is no education, there are no jobs. So what, as Africa is doing for, like, you know, developing education, what is the continent doing for developing education to get, like, jobs? So what is your answer for that?
There's a lot. I told you there are so many moving parts on the continent to ensure our children get the job. If you listened to my speech,
yes,
what did I say about education? It sets us free. We are educating our children. If anything, let me tell you, our parents, my parent, used to tell me, that's one thing that no one will take away from you. Have your education.
Agreed.
So, education, we are working on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I just react for a second to what to add what the ambassador just said, specifically on child labor? I have this to say: who benefits from child labor? Two people, two groups. The first group is the guy who uses them because they're cheap, and the second group are the parents, relatives who benefit from their salaries. So these are the two pressure points. And you got to deal with that. So if a company comes from abroad and gets into using children because it's cheap labor, that is the first thing to look at. And many African countries have to deal with that. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, therefore, is educating the parents as to the consequences of that, of child labor. So, but I think a lot is happening, as the ambassador has said, at the African Union, the level of the African Union. Many things are happening as to child labor. But I think the foreign companies should not use minerals that are produced by children. If it's tainted, they would not touch it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I know the previous young lady just spoke about education and unemployment. So I guess my question is, how would you go about solving domestic violence against women and sex trafficking in Africa? Because although I do agree with education being a priority, I do think the protection of African women and girls should be the ultimate priority.
I told you in my speech that we are working on inclusion of the youth and women. And what have we seen in that? Is that we are leaving a certain component that makes a difference at the end of the day. I said that in essence to issues to do with mediation. In the way I said, the young people, when you hear conflict, do you think they are older people who are causing that on the continent? It could be they are causing, but that's just one person, 3 people, up there 5 people, but the children are used to do what has to be done. In the conflict, you will know that they are the younger people. In the domestic violence, the minute people have the knowledge of who they are being valued, they are working together with their husbands, these things will not happen. And using the sex, you called it what? Sex what?
Sex trafficking.
It's used in areas where there are conflicts. And to ensure that they weaken the other side. There's nothing as bad as that. But the UN has taken this issue very seriously, of which the penalty is so high that it may be still happening, but it has been contained. Thank you.
May I ask one more question? So
Sure.
I know you had said that you said something about working together with husbands. Now, often domestic violence is through the male, so how would you go about educating men? Because I don't think that the women need so much education on domestic violence other than to probably avoid it or walk away, but I know certain circumstances you can't often walk away. So I guess my question is, how would you educate husbands, men, partners on the importance of not participating in domestic violence?
I think we experienced more of that during the COVID time, isn't it? Your research must be telling you we had a lot of domestic violence happening because the man was at home and the woman who is an informal trader is also at home. Things were no longer like balancing at home, and that made this problem just, be bigger. But I think we leave out sometimes when we strategize on making things better, we leave out the important components. As I said, leaving out the youth and the women in negotiations of challenges on the continent, leaving the men when you talk about domestic violence. Let them come to the fore and we teach them together. It will make a difference. That's how I can respond to it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
First, I'd just like to thank all the speakers for coming. It was a pleasure to hear you all speak. My question is directed at Dr. Karamuna. When a country decides to mobilize resources towards anti-corruption efforts, are there particular strategies that can be used to make sure that the anti-corruption forces are also not corrupt themselves? Thank you.
Well, that is the key question in fighting anti-corruption. Can the fish fry themselves? That is the question you're asking. And in most African countries, you would see that the agency that fights against corruption is a state agency. The same people accused of being corrupt. And so the question, can the fish fry themselves? That is hardly the case. If you remember I spoke about the national integrity systems. Now, the independence of this agency depends on those you put in there and the resources you give them. So countries do it both ways. They either name their own people to the agency or they name independent anti-corruption fighters and give them no money. So either way, that's what happens. So the evolution towards an efficient fight against corruption is to really have a truly independent and one that is fully financed. And truly independent, I mean that the guy who names them should not have the power to dismiss them. And that is very important. Okay, he's president, you can't take away all the powers, but if you name somebody to that commission, he cannot fire them. Okay, just like in the States, when he chooses, when you choose a judge in the Supreme Court, that's it. If you don't like his face, tough luck. So it's the same thing. So your question is fundamental, and that is the pivotal question in Africa today. I've been working in this area for 20 years, and Nigeria at some point came to very close to having one of the strong ones. And Ghana, under Anna Bosman, had one also that was very independent, and that was making ripples. But, by and by, politics takes over, and that is it. I think that true democracy is a great thing, and multi-party is a great thing, but the destructive part is played, and dividing a continent, dividing a people, and polluting all the different areas, and making elections all about money, has really, to my mind, increased the level of corruption. So your question really is the core in fighting against corruption. Can the fish fry themselves?
Thank you all so much. We'll take that question and then maybe one from the faculty, and then we will go ahead with our awards because we are trying to catch up time. Okay, go ahead.
So my question was, how would you all deter foreign companies from coming into Africa and exploiting child labor and the minerals there?
I can react to that. The same way you were able to sort out the problem of blood diamonds. You have to have strict rules as to the origin of these minerals. If you don't have those strict rules, what will happen, you know? And that's it. But the thing is, you know, is a trade in which corruption is very, very, very important. These guys will pay their way through. And the only way you can get them is by making sure that before these are exported, they are certified. A bit like in the Kimberley process for diamonds and all that. It's very important that the source of what you're exporting is certified. And you know, if you don't do that, it's very difficult to fight child labor. Don't forget that the parents themselves, who are sometimes very destitute, do allow their children. And they would even mock at the children who don't go out to work because they don't bring anything. So it's very important. I mean, in Ghana, you have the issue of children involved in fishing in part of your country. So it is a question of revenue. And if you can really solve that and also certify the process, maybe you'll start curbing it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that question. We'll take one question from a faculty advisor.
Thank you very much. This question goes to either the Honorable Ambassador or Pastor Muna. You mentioned the three major priorities for African Union: peace and security. You talked about trade and investment, and of course, you talked about climate change. I'm going to focus on peace and security. Cameroon, in May of 2022, was really in charge of peace and security. Meanwhile, we have the unseen war crisis going on in Cameroon since 2016. What's the position of the African Union on this crisis?
Well, let me say, not particularly looking at Cameroon, because at the level of African Union, what I'm talking about is what is African Union doing on the issues of that peace. We have the Peace and Security Commissioner, Bankole, who is doing a lot of work in making sure he's containing these challenges in the Horn of Africa, which is the example right now is what we have done with Ethiopia, what we have gotten out of Ethiopia, that our envoys have worked to ensure there's peace between the two countries, the government and the Tigray area. Those are efforts of African Union. For the Cameroon one, I cannot come out with an exact, I don't know the dates that you are talking about, but I assure you, there is work towards ensuring we quell this challenge that was happening in Cameroon. We read about it, yes, but I think the Prof can talk about it as well.
Well, my answer is going to be more callous and less diplomatic. Firstly, and secondly, because I'm Cameroonian as well. I think peace and security depends on the vested interests. And the more important the interests, the more difficult it is to solve it. Look at the Ukraine. It's totally a proxy war. Now, Cameroon sits in the center of Africa. It is key in the in the geopolitics of the region. Boko Haram and all those Islamic forces, Cameroon is like the stop to them coming from the north and coming from the Sahel and also coming from the east and giving on to the ocean and dealing with piracy on the West African coast. So it is critical. So if you have a country like ours, where, and I don't mince my words, the government is delinquent, because you have a country where you've been president for 40 years, you're 90 years old, you're trying to make your son president, then there's a question to ask, maybe two actually. So how can you, so when you depend on the same guy to maintain peace and security in that area, it becomes a very dicey project. So most international organizations talk about dialogue, okay? Talk about dialogue, and the government dialogues with itself. It calls a meeting with those he decides to be opposition and those he decides to be civil society, and he itself as government. And they sit around for 4 days, and they come out with a resolution saying that we have had a national dialogue. And 2 years afterwards, back to the drawing board, 300 villages burned down, 70,000 refugees in next door, and 70,000 internally displaced persons, women, young girls that are under 16 now, totally traumatized because what? Because of early pregnancies, and sexuality becomes a very huge issue. Prostitution is on the rise because of displaced persons. It is a serious problem. It is a serious problem, which is happening within the country. But again, the overriding interests are those of the peace and security of the region. And you know, if Cameroon can benefit from the swift response, like in the Ukraine, maybe, just maybe we might find a solution. But I must say also, it is the same with any kind of conflict. It's the vested interests. How do you manage them? If you can't manage them, if you can't identify the vested interests, it is very, very difficult. And the African Union has been very efficient. I mean, the case of Eritrea, of Ethiopia and Tigray that was just mentioned, African Union has done a lot of work in West Africa. And if you want to go back to DRC, that's his country, you would know that the position of the African Union towards the elections there was very firm. But again, African Union was forced to back down because of vested interests. So it is a world where, you know, the stronger guys make the rules. And if you're smart enough, you know, you just do what Clint Eastwood said. A man has got to know his limits.
Thank you so much. I think we have to cap it there. And we will now go ahead. And thank you so much, Ambassador and Dr. Keremuna. We want to wrap up so that we can do academic sessions. I know that all of you have lots of questions, but if you can put your questions together and then we can maybe send it to them, and perhaps we can get some further responses. They want to wrap up this session so that we can continue. So the next thing that we need to do now is to, first of all, please, a big round of applause.
I spoke about the Iraq provisional government. The article is in Vanity Fair of, I think, 2010. It is called Billions Over Baghdad, because somebody wanted to know. If you look in Google, Billions Over Baghdad, you'll have the full details of what happened with that money. Thank you. Yeah.
Billions over Baghdad.
The billions over Baghdad. It'll tell you how much money was stolen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been quite an informative section. We truly appreciate all of you for adding more to our academic and scholarly knowledge about these things. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, a round of applause. We will now invite the chair of the African Council. We are going to do a special award session for SEMAU Founders Award. This is the SEMAU Founders Award, and after this award, we will now do our announcements, and you know where to go from here. So let me very quickly say this so that it doesn't skip us. The students, you are going to be having a special reception here in the evening for your dinner, and we are going to have as our hosts cultural exchange students who are volunteering. They are going to join you here for your dinner. You're going to have fun here. After the session, you're going to come down here. I think that session is going to be around 6:37. So you're not going back till after that. You're all going to be here. Come back to this venue. They're going to set off their dinner for you here. That's where you're going to be. The faculty advisors, we're having a special reception for you outside of the campus in the same Radiant Spring where you came from to get into this. Radiant Spring is the road that is over here. Cafe 5.0 is owned by an international entrepreneur here, Mr. Gilbert Udoto. The address is on that schedule that you have. That's where you are all going to be received and given a special treat at, I think it's on, the time is there. I don't want to give the wrong time. It's on that schedule. So for now, and then right after this award, we will all transition to the Fine Arts Center. It's a walking stroll up. And for those of you who, faculty, if you cannot work, we will have the small golf carts to take you. So before we do this award, we want to very quickly say a big thank you to our communication specialist, photographer on campus. You can see that he's been here since morning, quietly listening and taking pictures. He is the one that is over the pictures, and if you go on ASU Flickr, you will see all the pictures. He has done this for several years. Since I came here, I've known him. So please, can we give a big round of applause? So after we've done this award, we are all going to have a group picture. The first group picture is with all the dignitaries and faculty advisors. First dignitary, and then the faculty advisors with the group, and then with all the students. So please don't go away, just exercise some patience with us. So, Dr. Oba, the chair of the African Council, USG African Council, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Director and co-directors and all the people that have made this occasion a very memorable one, even though we have 2 more days to go. To be honest with you, you would agree with me that we couldn't be here without the special individuals who find it worthy and worked on it to establish this very model in the Southeast. As the ambassador mentioned earlier, there is a national model, but our own people from Georgia, so a group of professors, special professors, were the people that established this very model 25 years ago. As you can see, they are very spacious. And this is the first time that the University of African Council wanted to at least recognize them and give them just a token. Okay? There are several of them, but not all of them that is here today. So we decided to at least to honor 10 of them. Even among those 10 of them, all of them couldn't be able to come today. Although there may be some people that may receive award or take the plaque for some of them who are not here. So it's really, really a special event for the University of African Council to do this. So for me to start it, I want to call on the executive member of the University of African Council who are here, Dr. Akin Ojo, please you could join me, and Professor Dr. Cathy Skimon-Hos, who is actually the vice chair of the University of African Council. So they're going to join me to do this award.
Dr. Jallo was unable to make it today, but I worked with him for a number of years, so I'm here to accept the award on his behalf. And it says Pioneering Faculty Advisor, First Southeast Global African Union Conference, November 6, 1997, Macon State University. So I'd like to say that we give a big round of applause for Dr.
Okay, and the next person is Dr. Emmanuel Nneka from Savannah State University for Pioneering Faculty Advisor, First Southeast Model African Union Conference, November 6 to 8, 1997, Macon State.
I believe we have an advisor here today from Savannah State.
You accept this and then present it to him.
So I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of Dr. Nneka. It's very interesting because his name is Emmanuel and my name is Emmanuel, so I got confused when they called it. But on behalf of Dr. Nneka, thank you very much. I'll make sure that he gets it, and I will send all of the greetings and regards from you guys. Thank you.
Dr. James Floyd, Middle Georgia State University. So Dr. Myers is here to accept it from Dr. Floyd.
Yes, Dr. Floyd has retired, but I'll see that he gets this plaque.
Here's somebody we all know and has been participating actively, even in this model. Distinguished SEMAU Founders Award to Dr. Eustace Palmer.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure to be associated with the University System Africa Council. I was its chair for about 4 years. And also with SEMAU, which I've attended every year since 1997 and prepared students from Georgia College and State University to attend the SEMAU every year since then. I hope this will not be very
And again, Dr. Lioba Moshi, Pioneering Faculty Advisor, First Southeast Model African Union Conference, November 6th through the 8th, 1997, from University of Georgia.
On behalf of Professor Lioba Moshi, who is also retired and emeritus at UGA, I'm happy to receive this award. And I also want to use this opportunity to encourage the student participant. In 1997, when I was sitting where you are today, I was a student at the first SEMAU. So that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at everybody and I'm so excited, because it's been 25 years. So wish you all the best with your own deliberations, and I hope it leads you to connecting with Africa, but also connecting with the African Union. Thank you very much.
Distinguished SEMAU Founders Award to Dr. Nuruddin Akiandi.
It's always a pleasure to introduce new students to Africa, and I hope you stay with us. Thank you.
Okay, we have another one to Dr. Mundia Kahiga of Georgia State University. Is there someone here to?
Yeah, he couldn't be here, but we'll make sure he's there. Well, I'll go ahead and receive on behalf of Dr. Kahige, and we'll make sure he gets here. Thank you all very much.
The next one is for Dr. Florence Wakoko, originally at Fort Valley, but now at Columbus State University. We will have Dr.
Yes, also at the same time, she's not here, but we're going to make sure it gets to her. She has been, she worked for a long time. She has hosted at least two several times. So we appreciate her. Thank you very much.
Distinguished SEMAU Founders Award to Dr. Alfred Young, Pioneering Faculty Advisor for Southeast Model African Union, November 1986 to 1997, Macon State College. Dr. Young was at Georgia Southern University, he was also one of our directors of Africana Studies. And I just have to say that he and Dr. Jallo brought me to my first SEMAU in 1997. So I will make sure that he gets this award. So thank you very much. He's retired now and living a good life out on Tybee Island.